Good afternoon, this is Lucky Links. Whenever I go to a cemetery like this, and I'm visiting a cemetery, and I see a tombstone like this that's old, that's broken, that's been abandoned, it reminds me that we only have a short time while we're here to make a difference. And I want to talk to you today about the concept of manifesting and success. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm working on a book on manifesting right now that evolved out of a presentation that I gave at the beginning of the month at the World Divination Association. And someone asked me to speak on my views on manifesting as a student of Tibetan Bon. So as I said in my video yesterday, I'm going to be releasing this book at the beginning of next year. And there's some questions that I wanted to bring up right now to get people start to thinking about the idea of manifesting in a whole new way. And what I want to ask about today is the idea of success. Now, normally I talk in terms of divination and using cards and using oracles, but I really want you guys to not use tarot cards or any kind of oracle for what I'm about to suggest that you do. Because I think when it comes to the subject of manifesting, people aren't asking the right questions. They aren't thinking deeply enough on the subject, which is one of the reasons why I think people struggle with the whole concept, idea, and practice of bringing their wishes or their desires, their wants, their goals into being. And I've seen a lot of this over the years as I've worked with people. And so what I'm going to suggest now is that you take some time to ask yourself one or more of the following questions about success. And I want you to pay attention to whether or not you answer the question quickly or whether you give it deeper thought. Because usually when we answer something quickly, it's usually just what's off the top of our head. But if we give it some time and we think about it a little bit, usually a deeper realization or set of realizations emerge. So in relation to the subject of success, I think it's very important to think about how we define success before we even try to bring anything into being. And so the questions that I'm going to ask you are, how do you define success? That's the first question that you may want to consider and consider deeply. Is success a destination, something that you arrive at and that is fixed? Or do you see success more of something that's a moving target? I also think that we should start to ask ourselves, what is missing, or what if it were missing would mean that I didn't have success? So sometimes we define success by what's absent. Well, it can't be success because I don't have this. There's another question I want you to consider, and that is, have you ever felt really low after you've achieved success? And then there's another one that I think is really important, and that is, whose definition of success are you living by? And the last question I want you to consider is, who gets to say when you're successful? Is it you or is it someone else? And before you answer really quickly that it's you, I want you to ask yourself this next question. How would you know if you were lying to yourself in that case? Now, these questions that I've asked are not easy ones, but I think it's really important if you want to learn who you are and learn what it is that you're really aiming for, to think very deeply about these questions. So what I'm going to suggest is that you actually write one or more of these down and take some time to really deeply think about it. Don't use divination and don't use cards, because I don't want you to ask someone else or something else what your definition is. I want you to ask yourself. I'm Lucky Links, as always, wishing you success and good fortune in all that you do. Remember, we only have a short time in which to make an impact on the world, and places like this always remind us of that. If you want to get a reading from me, contact me 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. I can do your Tibetan birth chart, Tibetan crystal mirror, I have a reading that I developed from Tibetan Bond cosmology principles in which I can look at exactly what is standing in the way of you being able to manifest something. If you'd like to get that reading from me, contact me. Also, I'm also doing memberships right now where you and I work together on you achieving a very specific goal that has some very specific parameters that are defined. And then we work together for a couple of months until that comes into being. And then we also use specific Tibetan bond processes for that and certain divination tools that I have and other things at my disposal. So ask yourself these questions and start to ask yourself, what really is my definition of success, and see where that takes you next. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this subject as I move forward to releasing this book. But what I'd like you to do is please answer the questions below and let me know what you think in response to these questions.